Welcome viewers to today's Spotlight Show. The Spotlight Show is brought to you by the City of Farmington and the City of Farmington Hills Commission for Children, Youth, and Family. I'm Sharon Snodgrass, a member of the Commission, and with us today is Amber DeLynn, also a member of the Commission. Our topic is social media and fake news. We'll try not to be too lengthy on this topic, but it's very timely. In the past, we've always had fake news, or we've had magazine issues that you read on the shelf that you see at the grocery store. We've had all kinds of inappropriate political cartoons, and it's always been part of our history. But now with social media and all the modern technology, it can go like wildfire in seconds, and it's become just like almost an enormous movement of media. So Amber has a nice background. She works for Michigan, the Center of Michigan, or the Michigan Center. She is a strategy director, and very aware of all the social media, and she's going to talk with us today about the problem of fake news, and it's readily available to everyone. So, Amber, why don't you get us started on that topic, which isn't hard.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Sharon, and thanks for having me here today. So, fake news seems like a phrase that we're hearing a lot right now from all corners, and I think while there's not just one definition of what is fake news, I think that particularly because so many of us get a lot of the news that we read from social media, where things go so quickly, things are immediate, sometimes it can be hard to know when you're looking at a news article that you're reading from social media, whether not only is it true, but what's its source? There are non-biased sources of news, and that's the sort of thing that we've come to rely on when we want to understand what's happening in our community, our state, our nation, our world. But sometimes it's hard to tell when you're looking at an article, is it really an unbiased source? Is it even true? And so today I just wanted to give you a few tips for how to identify whether what you're looking at on social media, whether it's actually real news that comes from an unbiased professional source, or is it an opinion piece, or is it an analysis piece, or maybe is it completely made up?
Well, we could use some tips. Should I get out my pen and take some notes?
Well, I've got a couple of resources I want to tell you about. Okay. So the first is this fake news guide. So like you said, Sharon, I work for the Center for Michigan, and we have a publication called Bridge Magazine. Bridge is an online news magazine. You can find it at bridgemi.com. Completely free, nonpartisan, fact-based journalism about what's going on in Michigan. And we saw it as a really important public service to provide some of these tips, because we want people to be able to know what they're reading, whether it's true or not. So if you go to Bridge, type in the upper right-hand corner in the search bar, fake news, this fake news guide will come up. So a few of the tips I want to point out for how you can tell when you see something maybe on your Facebook page or on your Twitter account, and you wonder, is this just made up, or where did this come from? Here's a few tips that can help you figure out how to spot some fake news. The first is to read more than just the headline. So sometimes on stories, they're really salacious or sort of scandalous headlines, and the idea is to try and get your attention.
And it does.
Definitely, definitely. But sometimes when you take a look at the headline and then actually click into the story, the headline and the story aren't very related. And sometimes that's a way to tell that this might not be factual information, and it's really designed to get us looking at it and getting us sharing it with our friends, which isn't something we want to do if it's not real information. Another tip might be to kind of consider the publication. So when you're looking at it, is this a blog? Is it an opinion piece? Or is it a professional news outlet? Something like CBS or NBC or ABC. What's the purpose of them posting this? And keep that in mind when you decide whether you want to read it or you want to share it. Another tip is anyone else reporting it? So if there's a really big news item happening, some breaking news, there's a good chance that not just one news source is going to be reporting it, several will be. So, go to a couple of different websites that you trust for news and see, are they reporting this too? And if they aren't, then maybe that isn't true, and maybe you should think twice before sharing it with your friends. One way that I have been fooled before, I've seen on my own Facebook, is sometimes something will look really real. And even the website, or the URL as they call it, looks real, but sometimes it's made to closely resemble a news source. So for example, this is one I actually saw. A real news site is abcnews.com. That's ABC's real news site. There was a story I saw that was abcnews.com.co, which is not a real website. If you type that in, you won't get anything.
Just a little extra.
Just a little extra, and so that fooled me too. So those are just a few. There's a full list in this fake news guide, but those are a few that really stood out to me as, okay, these are things that are helpful to keep in mind when you're trying to decide, is this news that I'm looking at, is this real or not? So.
Yeah, we had a problem on the email too, is that they copy the bank's logo and they send it out and it says, confirm that. And in spite of the fact that we mention that all the time, people still click on a link and have a problem because it was not real email.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, there are a lot of these same sort of tactics are being used in a lot of different industries. One thing I wanted to mention in particular was, so a lot of us get our news from Twitter. It's a source of kind of constant 24/7 news. But it's also a place where we see a lot of fake news or non-factual news, and it's spread oftentimes by what they call Twitter bots, which are robot accounts on Twitter. So, normally if you're on Twitter, you're going to see, you'll follow real people who are tweeting. And sometimes accounts will look like a real person, but actually they're a robot. And they've essentially been programmed by computer software to send out information rather than an actual person. And I know that sounds so strange, but it's a way that some people use to get fake information out there or misleading information out there.
The robot can send it out all across Twitter.
That's exactly right. And I mean, and those who follow might see that, and then they share it. So once a real person starts sharing it, it starts pretty legitimate. It starts to look pretty legitimate, even if it's not. Sometimes there are a group of these bots that they will program to all tweet out the same information at one time. So it looks like this certain topic is trending and is something that people should be paying attention to, when it really
that's really interesting.
isn't. So it's something to think about. But there are a couple ways to know that that the tweet is from a bot. So I want to just highlight a few of those too, if you wouldn't mind. So the one is, first is high levels of activity. So most people, if they're going to tweet, they might tweet a few times a day. Bots sometimes tweet 50 times a day, and they may tweet several times in the same minute. And that's something, that's just would be really hard for a human being to do. So that's one way to know that the account you're looking at might be a bot.
Isn't that a bit annoying when you have all these messages from the
I
spot?
think it is. I think it is. Another way to know is if they don't have very much original content. They're just retweeting other accounts. So that's one way. That's not always a certain way to know, but it's something that may indicate that it could be a bot.
Is that true of other social media too, or just subject to Twitter? How about?
I think it's probably, that one in particular is pretty specific to Twitter. But I mean, this is not unheard of to happen on Facebook as well, that there can be fake accounts, or at the very least duplicate accounts where someone tries to look like someone else. So that's something to keep in mind too when you're thinking about fake news and using some of those tips about how to spot fake news on Facebook. So if you get a friend request from someone you don't know, something to think about is, is this person really who they say they are? And if I don't know them, maybe I don't want to friend them. A few things that you may also notice on Twitter, if it's a bot that's talking to you, is that many posts that they post are advertisements. That's certainly something a real person could do. They could have some sponsored posts. But if they have many, many posts that are advertisements for different products, that's one way you might know. And another way you might know is if the account is constantly tweeting in multiple languages. It would be really impressive if someone knew 6 different languages and were tweeting in 6 different languages during the day, but it's not particularly likely, but it could be. It's a way you might know that this could be a bot, and it might not be sharing real information with you. So those are just some of the things I wanted to point out as potential ways that you might know that you're getting some fake news, or at least being targeted by one of these Twitter bots.
So I think it's really important not only that you look over what comes in Twitter and Facebook and all, but you have to look at what you're going to share. More importantly, is one is what's coming in, but the second is what you're sending out. So if you know it's from a certain source and it's rather political, but you want that political, I guess you can send that out. But at least you knew that you're sending that out yourself. I was telling you that I had a friend who sent this little blurb about watch out for the ATM, and that if you do something, it'll stop the crook. And I'm not sure if this is very valid, she says, but if you put the card in, then the money will get stuck. But she sends it out to all, and she has a huge Facebook following. And so I look up in Snopes, snopes.com, and it tells you all the fake things, and it says no, this isn't true at all. But really, before saying that, I don't know if this is true or not, but I thought I would share it with everyone. Before you do that, you have to take the responsibility of not sending that out. Or sometimes it'll be some political statement that's not true about someone's family or something like that. And by sending it out and not checking it out first, is you do more harm, because even if you put a response in later saying, oh, I made a mistake, that wasn't true, the same people don't see
That's exactly right.
I'm sorry, they just saw the beginning one, and then they keep that in their mind. So I think a big responsibility is on the people who share their things. And then the intake is one, but the outtake is really important.
I completely agree. I mean, it's a responsibility that we have.
Right.
They say one of the things you have at your fingertips when you're on social media is some power, some influence over, the network that you have. And it's important to be responsible with that and share, because people really rely upon news being true and factual.
They do. I see Google has some new techniques where they're trying to encourage people to tell them what things are coming through that aren't appropriate, that don't seem correct, and all the sites are trying to tighten up a little bit so that the fake news is not distributed so randomly. I think the other thing that we do besides sharing bad things is sometimes that we're too ready to click on things that are too good to be true.
Sure.
I sign up for the free ticket, sign up for a free airfare, sign up right now, you get an iPad, or just joining a group that you're really not sure about the group. But it's, once again, you have to control your own behavior, which isn't easy to do unless you start habits that way, because when you're tired, you are less likely to have good behavior. You're just clicking away, I would think. So it's a whole learning process. Hopefully the next generation who've grown up with the internet and grown up with social media, the 5 and 6 year olds who they know it well, that they will have developed different skills than us who didn't have it from the time we were 5 years old.
Definitely. So. I hope so. I think I've got a lot of hope for the next generation who are technological natives.
So we're kind of like we're the test group, the beta group. Okay, that's not working for them, and that's not working for them. So, did we mention all the websites that someone can go to? They can go to Bridge. They can go to Snopes. There's other. You type in fake news. There's other informational resources that you can do. But I always, if I see someone that doesn't know about those, I just send them the link. So I say, here, you can look these things up before you send them around. Because if you tell them about it, it's not the same as you say, here it is. You just have to click on it.
Yeah.
Well, Amber, I think we've talked a lot about the different things that you can do. But basically, you have to take responsibility from what you share, and then be careful about what you click on and what you send around. So. Thank you for bringing all your knowledge.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you for being here. And I hope the viewers will take some websites home with them and look them up. So that's it. And hopefully you'll watch another show of Spotlight.